Nicole, I think you have to record or you can make me co-host.
I got it. We are recording. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. So thank you for joining us. I think this is our fourth call. Is that right? Or maybe our third. It's all kind of a blur. And we're going to go over a couple different aspects of the hub today and then open up conversation, in particular talking about some ideas about virtual events as we move forward into this new normal, and also financial resources. So there's been just a tremendous number of grants that have come out in the last week or two that we want to hear people talk about whether or not they're planning on applying, and also the assistance programs that have been made available for food and farm businesses. So we'd like to do a bit of a deeper dive into a couple of those topics. So again, just the overview of our meeting today, we're going to talk a little bit about what the COVID-19 hub is. I'm going to provide some information specifically about the needs assessment tool, and we're getting into a more regular rhythm in terms of reminding you to take that and what that's going to look like. And then we want to talk about an example of what we've been trying to do in terms of some of the needs that have been identified, with particular focus on food preservation resources. So I saw Liz Ann's on the call, so it would be great to have her share a little bit more about that as well. And then, like I said, we're going to talk about sort of the new normal, some of the virtual events that are being planned, events that were normally in person that are now being moved into virtual space, and other events that we could potentially help to support as we move forward, and then financial resources. So I just want to welcome everyone. Please introduce yourself in the Zoom chat box. You can let us know who you are, where you're located, what you do. And this is also a great resource. Use the chat box to post any links to other resources that you have, websites that you're aware of, webinars that you know that are coming up, anything that you think that you'd like to share with the group, and then we will go through this chat box after the call today and make sure that those resources are also available through the COVID hub at our website. So just a little bit about the Food Systems program. We are housed within Washington State University. This is our mission statement here. We have 7 focus areas to the food system, and we try to do as much as we can to touch all of those different focus areas and where they intersect. We seek to work with communities throughout the state to foster viable farm businesses, optimize sustainable natural resource stewardship, and to promote scaled processing and distribution, always in the pursuit of access to healthy food for all. We're comprised of academic, research, and extension folks from WSU, as well as several stakeholders from community-based organizations, government agencies, nonprofits throughout the state. And we welcome all of you who are either formally part of the team or are just participating in our COVID weekly calls as we move through this challenging time together. We are distributed across the state, so we have faculty and staff in all 39 counties and all the Colville Reservation, and we also have 5 primary campuses, and then the global campus, which many students participate in, and extension is, as a land-grant university, we really cover the entire state with research, education, and outreach to communities. So a little bit about the COVID hub. So we have developed this over the last few weeks, thanks to no small part by Nicole and Tia doing some pretty heavy lifting here to get our website transitioned over and to start really uploading these links. We're still working out a few kinks. We're trying to make it a searchable database still, so you don't have to go to a specific topic area to find resources. You can just put in a few search terms. But this hub is to provide space to connect regularly, both for WSU folks as well as external partners working across the food system, including producers. It's to collect and update COVID-19 resources to support the Washington food system. So we hold these calls to connect. We upload resources into the website. We also have a dynamic needs assessment tool, which I'm going to talk about in more detail in a few minutes, and also just to provide space and time to share stories and receive support from one another. We have a calendar of events. This is an older page that I borrowed from here, so some of these have already taken place, but these are updated daily as we get information about webinars and other types of online resources. So please check out our calendar of events page. We have a lot of information in there that's being posted, and we're also working to archive webinars and create links to those that have already taken place. So the Farm Finder tool, and this is still functioning, although I'm really excited about some current work that we're doing as part of the LFPP program, specifically being led by Sustainable Connections and TILP. And so WSU is going to be working on this project to hopefully create a food atlas for the entire state to really expand the work that those two organizations have already done in terms of building databases, both for their farm guide as well as the Eat Local First resources that they provide. So we're in the midst of helping support that grant with several partners, and really looking forward to have a very robust food atlas for Washington in the months to come. And we're hopeful too that there's some initial funding to get started even before we hear about the grant. So I just want to keep you all apprised of that. In the meantime, we're still going to keep the Farm Finder going. So if you have information that you want to add to the Farm Finder, if you see farms on there that are no longer in operation, please reach out to us. Nicole Witham is the admin lead for the Farm Finder right now, and we're happy to continue to make sure that this is an available resource. But we're really excited to eventually retire the Farm Finder and really work with some statewide partners to have a robust food atlas that's available for everyone in the state. So the needs assessment tool. So we developed this a few weeks ago, and it's something that we want you to take every week. So we're going to start a bit of a marketing campaign. You're going to see an email that comes out every single Wednesday to remind you to take the assessment for the prior week. It's a dynamic assessment tool, so the link itself that you see on this page never changes, but we will update the assessment with additional questions. So I just got some feedback from the WSDA that they'd really like us to be asking producers specifically about access to PPE, including hand sanitizer and masks, in particular as it relates to farm stands and farmers markets needs. So we are going to be working on that. And I can go ahead. Oh, Nicole, do you want to share that? I was going to share mine, but you can go ahead and share this if you want. So the needs assessment, this is what it looks like. So you select the week that you're reporting for. And then you can go through, you identify whether or not you work for WSU. And I'm actually just going to show the whole thing, Nicole. So I'm going to
keep you posted.
I will
as things unfold.
Go ahead, Laura.
last week, please do so so that we can get that information. We're sharing this information with WSU leadership as well as other organizations that request it, so we can group the information based on whether you're with WSU, whether you're looking for external partners and what they're reporting, whether you look for what is being reported in your specific county. We have all of these different categories to describe your role within the food system. So you can see here, we have a lot of different stakeholders listed. So we really encourage you to send this needs assessment survey out to your networks. We've had quite a few producers that have already filled it out. And again, really wanting it to be something that we look at weekly so that we can understand what's happening in the prior week in terms of needs, and then really help to allocate resources or look for resources that we can help support the food system, the Washington food system. So we have our different sectors listed here associated with our program. You can pick from all 39 counties. So wherever you're based, I know some of you are statewide or work in multiple counties, but where you're actually reporting from. And then if you work with any of the tribes in Washington state as well, you can select any of the tribes that you work with. So it's not limited to just one. And then also if you're working with any communities in the state that you would like to also share information about so that we can see whether or not we're really meeting the needs of all Washingtonians. And then this is where we get into more of the sort of functional groups of functionality of what's happening. And so like I said, we're going to be adding some more information here about access to PPE on the recommendation of the WSDA. And so we have several questions about functionality based on different aspects of the food system. It's fairly short. It looks like a lot of information to fill out, but you can go through it pretty quickly. And once you're familiar with the needs assessment tool, it shouldn't take too long at the beginning of or midweek every week on Wednesday to fill it out. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my presentation and show you what some of the results look like. So we have some information here. So this is from that last week's data. We're still, of course, looking for you to input more information, and we're posting these reports on our website as well. So you can go and look to see what has been posted for the prior week. Share this with county commissioners, with anyone that you think would be interested in this information, resource providers that are looking at trying to allocate resources. So from the first week that we deployed it, the highest need that we had was for food preservation information and resources. But you can see here, food handling is a high need, and then processing and distribution information. And then this is looking at economic impacts, so alternative market platforms, which we talked quite a bit about last week, and there were several webinars over this week as well looking at alternative market platforms. So I wanted to just turn it over to Nicole and Lizanne as well, since she's on the phone, to talk a little bit about, so that first week that we gathered information, we had a lot of requests for food preservation resources. And so Nicole's just gonna walk you through sort of our response to that within WSU. And just again, wanting to reiterate the use of this tool to not only help WSU, but other resource providers across the state look at where there's needs. And if we don't have a lot of people that fill it out, then it's not a very powerful tool. So we're really hoping to increase participation so it can become something that we can use over the months to come to really look at where there's high need and where there may be future need and what we can all be doing to help support Washingtonians. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and let you share, Nicole, some of that information.
Yeah, so I think this is just a really great story of how the needs assessment tool can be really useful for all of us. So our hope was to deploy something like this so we could come back with really action-based responses here in the time now. So something, as Laura was saying, that we saw was a lot of interest and need in food preservation. We knew that we had some really fantastic resources within WSU and Extension in Lizanne, Powers Hammond in Benton Franklin County, and as well as some folks like Diane Smith and others in Skagit and Whatcom. So we've been needling. This is something that we wanted to have happen for quite some time, but we're really glad that with something like a pandemic, it made it important enough. So Lizanne, I wanted to welcome you to say some more about the work that you've done and how we're looking to kind of just expand the resources. And I'm going to share my screen while you talk, if that works for you.
Sure.
Okay. So go ahead and introduce yourself. And
okay, thanks, Nicole. So I'm Lizanne Powers Hammond. I'm what we used to call county agent, but county-based faculty over in Benton and Franklin counties, which is Tri-Cities area, and have been with Extension for many, many years, over 30. So historically, we had a lot of food preservation resources in every county. When I started Extension, there were 55 family and consumer science faculty across the state. So we've kind of dwindled, as most of you are well aware. I am not the only show in town. Let's start with that county offices across the state do also have family and consumer faculty. Some of the offices do. And some other program coordinators and program assistants trained to deal with food preservation. But I jumped on board with this because there are 2 master food preserver programs left in Washington state. And the Master Food Preserver program is a volunteer training program. We are modeled after Master Gardeners. We started the year, 1 or 2 years after Master Gardeners started, because that volunteer outreach model was so successful with Master Gardeners. WSU thought, hey, let's try it for food preservation and food safety as well. So over the years, it has dwindled. There's 2 programs left, Clark County, which is the Vancouver area, and Benton and Franklin counties. So what I put out there when I heard the need for this is that my program and my volunteers in Benton and Franklin are happy to take emails or calls from across the state. And we always have been. We've never said, oh, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you from my county. But we just wanted to put this out there so that it reminded people that we're a statewide resource for you. So we're happy to field calls or emails. We got a couple already. Probably the first call we get is, how do we get a master food preserver program in our area too? Which I don't have a good answer for that one. That's another whole discussion. But anything we can help people with, we're happy to do that. It's, especially in this virtual world, we can do a lot with email and phone calls for people. There's also our print materials out there, which have lots of information. But a lot of times with the information that's out there, a lot of times people's questions or issues are much beyond the basics. So, so like I said, we're happy to do it. I have 25 volunteers that are very well trained. A couple of them have been with me for probably 15 years. So I always tell them they could do my job. I go, oh, they don't need me anymore. They've got you guys. So they're very well trained. We also have a support system for if we don't have the answer. We have a state food specialist. So we have a support system to try and get the right answer for people.
Excellent. Thank you, Lizanne.
Yeah,
So
Nicole, I was going to say, do you want to share a little bit about the food safety program too and what they're doing with cultivating success?
Yeah, so some other resources that have come together in response are some great quick webinars, and which have been spearheaded by our partners mainly in Idaho. We have a partnership with University of Idaho and Rural Roots to coordinate Cultivating Success, which is a new and beginning small farms education curricula. And right now there are several offerings that are live in response, some of which have already happened earlier this week. And I'm tootling through all of my tabs on my computer here, bear with me. And one of which was food safety distribution, some for some information specifically to community gardens, some information specifically to farmers markets. So take some time to go to the HUB website again, and you can even go to YouTube and find Cultivating Success channel online. Getting started with community supported agriculture, a lot of farmers are having to pivot to that system. Best practices for farmers markets. Another great resource that was fresh, the first one right out of the gate, was this farm resilience webinar that the Washington Young Farmers Coalition put out. So that recording, we're just doing our best to field things. So not only promoting things through the calendar that are upcoming, but also trying to field the recordings of things now that everyone's online and watching. So again, just please continue to forward me your items. I'm doing my best to catch them if I see them on social media as well, but feel free to email me directly and send me any sort of upcoming webinars. If you are a Cultivating Success instructor or coordinator, and you would be interested in hosting a webinar, you can also sign up to host webinars through this webinar series. So reach out to either Colette or myself, and we can get you to the right documents for that. There's even a nice little training video that shows you how to create a great webinar. And then you can be in the lineup. So thank you to Stephanie Smith with the Food Safety Program at WSU and others that are collaborating with U of I to put those forward. I don't know if anybody on the line is Colette or Stephanie on the line. I do see, there you are, Stephanie. Stephanie, do you want to say a little bit about the resources that you guys just put out in that webinar?
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I'm at home. So yeah, we just done the 2 webinars, and Colette and I were trying to collaborate a little bit on putting out some more Q&As on those and trying to make those available for some of the questions we've been getting afterwards. I know a lot of the information presented during some of those were new and kind of a challenge. And then I kind of joined late. I know Lizanne was speaking, but so I'm not sure if this was covered already or not. But she's been working with other people to put out a lot of podcasts for consumer food safety, especially, and then also new flyers, and then on our new info sheets, and then also on our statewide site, we've uploaded a lot of information for access both to podcasts and to the new info sheets that Lizanne and Susie and Margaret worked on, as well as a lot of other resources from different places. So we have information for like retail food service, for grocery, for growers. There's just a lot of information available on our consumer food safety statewide website.
Yeah, and I did go through and pull some of those quick, they're 1-minute videos that are great for consumer information. Just like how to go grocery, like best ways to set yourself up for grocery shopping and whatnot. Again, I think you can go to YouTube, and the Connors YouTube page has all of those short videos posted. So
Yes.
thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad to reach out to you.
Sorry for coming in and out of the conversation.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. So I think that's it. We just wanted to give a kind of an insight into how we're trying to utilize some of this data live and connect people and resources with needs. So continue to take the needs assessment every day or every week, and we'll continue to try to do some matchmaking.
Thanks, everyone. So, and if you have additional information about anything that comes up in the needs assessment, we will post the report for last week sometime today. And so that will be available. We'll be posting reports from the previous week after our calls, kind of giving you one last chance to fill those out. You can even be filling it out while we're on the call if you want, so that we can get those numbers up for the prior week. And then we'll be posting those reports on our website as well. We're posting 3 reports. One is an internal WSU report, so what WSU faculty and staff are reporting. One is external to WSU, so we remove all the WSU responses, and then we have a master report that has everything combined together. And again, if you want any of these reports for your specific county or filtered for a specific group within the food system, just let us know. I'm happy to provide that information for you. So Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about virtual events, needs and ideas. So there's been a tremendous amount of disruption, obviously in the food system itself, but also in the way that we meet and convene and create community with one another. I know everyone has been sitting through so many virtual meetings, and one of the things that is that we have seen is a lot of the events being canceled, both our statewide and national events, as well as some of the things that we used to do, either canceled or moved to a virtual platform, as well as us trying to look at how we plan moving into the future for some of the events that we traditionally help to manage, like, for example, farm walks in collaboration with TILF, and what those will look like through the pandemic. So I think Abba's on the call, and I wanted to let her at least talk a little bit about some of the shift in our events. She's our food systems, she manages our food systems innovation events like Cascadia Grains, and also is working on the International Quinoa Research Symposium. And I wanted to have her share a little bit about her experience. And then I really wanted to just hear from those of you on the phone about what your needs are in terms of virtual events moving forward, and some of your ideas as well about how we can make those really enriching, given the fact that we can't all be together in person. So I'm going to see if Abba's on the call.
Yeah, hi everybody, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome, thanks Laura. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the sort of pivot that we've made in collaboration with the WSU Sustainable Seed Systems Lab with the International Quinoa Research Symposium, which was originally going to be an in-person event here on the Olympic Peninsula. We were going to have international speakers from all over the world come and talk about their work. Obviously, that plan has shifted, especially given the international nature of the event. But we have decided to move to a sort of hybrid online event that will be both pre-recorded field walks and presentations mixed with live keynotes and interactive sessions, a live poster session with some of the research that's being promoted, which you know, we're hopeful that this direction will actually allow more people to participate over in the long run on an international scale than and make it more accessible than coming in person to the Olympic Peninsula. So we're going to be housing all of this sort of curriculum on the Quinoa Symposium website, and there are other models that we've been looking at. Cornell just hosted a plant breeding symposium where they integrated Zoom and Slack. And for those of you who don't know, Slack is a communication platform that's really designed for teams to communicate with each other. And so they made different channels for each of the speakers and for each of the sessions. So you can kind of tap into different channels to ask questions and to interact, because that's what we've heard from our other partners who are hosting events across the country, is that interactive piece is really essential, that feeling like you can get your questions answered in real time is really an important part, and the thing that we don't want to lose when we think about these kinds of events and interactions. So we're looking into integrating with that kind of communication platform like Slack or Trello, or there are other integrations that Zoom has. Obviously, Zoom isn't the only communication platform either, so we're looking into that. There's also the potential, though, to do a live stream on YouTube. We're fortunate enough to have funding for this event secured already. And, you know, through this change, our budget has decreased dramatically and really focused on tech support, especially for farmers who don't have access to those resources, especially in other countries. But we're able to offer it for free, which really solves a lot of problems in terms of accessibility and also policing of who can and cannot participate. And so it's going to enable us to do things like Facebook Live, YouTube Live, while the symposium is happening. There's also integrations that you can use for Zoom that are data collection tools. So we can integrate with Qualtrics and send out live polls. There's all kinds of different things that you can do with this. So if you're interested in these platforms, we're figuring this out as we go, and we'd love to hear from you if you have experience as well. But we're trying to make the best of this situation. And like I said, hopefully it will allow more people to participate in the long run. And then just one other thing that I'll add is that, there's a potential, which is sort of a different project in and of itself, but to think about these events as a long-term living document. So setting this up so that it can be added to and engaged with over time, rather than this time capsule of information that's presented at a specific time. At this point, we're just looking at it as more of the time capsule because it's such a quick turnaround, and it's going to be much easier for us to manage all the videos that we need to collect and just manage the logistics of an international event. When it's 8 a.m. here, it's 1 a.m. in Australia. And so how do you balance all of that out? But anyway, open to other people's experiences and suggestions as we try and navigate this and make it a meaningful and engaging experience for people given the circumstances.
Great, thank you so much, Abba. I'm wondering too if there's anyone from Tilth on the call who'd also like to share their pivot and kind of what they're going through right now in terms of thinking of the annual conference that typically takes place in November.
Yeah, hi, Laura. It's Melissa. We are on exactly the same route that Abba just described, and really trying to figure out how to make. We're going online, going virtual. That decision has been made, and so are just beginning to figure out how we can make it as interactive as possible, as engaging as possible, still create some sense of community. And so we'll be looking at all of the technology options that are available. So it was actually awesome just to hear from you right now, Ab, about some of the things that you're thinking about, and would love to have a conversation with you and share as we're figuring out how to really make a virtual conference impactful and useful to people who are going to be participating in it.
Great, thank you so much, Melissa. I see a comment here from Sarah Sutherland as well from Sustainable Connections about capturing consumer-facing events like countywide farm tours, and sort of what are some of the ideas. And I don't know, Sarah, if you want to share a little bit more, and I'd love to open it up to others on the call today as well to just talk about innovative models that they've seen, experiences that they've already had in terms of virtual meeting spaces or convening, as well as maybe some, like I said, some unique innovative ways that we can help produce these events, whether they're producer-facing, consumer-facing, looking at the different types of groups that we have across the state that typically meet on an annual basis. We just wrapped up the Washington State Farmers Market Association meeting. That was in February. I know OSA had their big bi-yearly meeting back in February as well. I've been talking with Lane Selman from the Culinary Breeding Network quite a bit about the kinds of events that she's looking at being able to move forward with, given the nature of that work. So yeah, I just love to open it up and maybe hear from, I know I see Erin's on the call, but Erin Murphy from Tilth, as well as Sarah Sutherland from Sustainable Connections.
Yeah, so this is Sarah with Sustainable Connections, and we do the Whatcom County Farm Tour. And so, we're starting to think about ideas and ways we can pivot potentially for that event in September. And so far, we did a CSA fair partnership with Tilth and Washington Young Farmers, and we turned that into a video series, which was pretty successful via social media. But, kind of thinking more creatively with this farm tour, when people are actually at the tour, they're able to, taste and touch and smell and just have this visceral kind of different kinds of experiences. And so how to keep it engaging, certainly we could do a virtual farm tour, but just curious of other ideas that folks have found to kind of engage people in different ways and really leave them inspired in a way that could fit into a virtual format.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone else want to jump in?
Well, I know just last evening, Aaron Murphy and Terry and I were talking a lot about farm walks, and those are a very farmer-facing event normally, and are a farmer-to-farmer educational event. And we keep kind of coming back around to like, well, we almost need a phased approach in terms of even our planning efforts. Really being realistic about where we're at now and where we might be a year from now, and even how people can be convened. Are we going to eventually have it where we can have smaller groups or not? And so I think even just making those initial decisions is difficult. And then once you do, it's like, okay, well, we're just going for an audio video format and then being creative from there. So I think that the conversation around consumer facing things is really interesting. I know that here in our local area, the cidery Finn River, when they had to close their cidery space down, created this kind of online event platform. They called it the Insider, and you could subscribe and be a member to join their online events each week. And they have things like music trivia and live performances and poetry readings, and they kind of made it more exclusive, but it was a really interesting take on adapting to a new consumer facing event model. So I wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, we're talking a lot about podcasts and vlogging, and really upping our game in online audio visual content. And at the same time, trying to make it accessible.
I see a couple great comments that were posted both by Sarah Wilcox, who talked about pretty gritty tours, and then also another idea from Jennifer Otten from the University of Washington. So either of you want to jump in and share a little bit more? Sarah, I've never heard of pretty gritty tours. So anyone else heard of this?
Yeah, it's been really popular down here in the Tacoma area, and they're just adapting their work so that people can, I think, and I haven't done it, but I see everybody on Facebook posting, I got my box for the tour this week, and they've got beer. They've got a beer tour, a sweets tour. I think they did a chocolate tour or something. So it's just it's been really a cool way to connect with people and community and local things at the same time.
And Jennifer, that looks a little bit like the suggestion that you put too. Could participants choose to order some tasting packets in advance and then do virtual tasting together?
This is Melissa again. And, you know, we've also put all of our organic gardening classes online, or a bunch of them. We've adapted a bunch of them to be online, so we've been learning a lot from that experience. But we've been talking about doing cooking classes where we send out a recipe in advance, have people purchase the products, and then sort of all cook together online. Those to really try and create a group experience where you're learning. So there are various things that we've been talking about along those lines as well.
Great, thank you so much.
This is Erin.
Oh yeah, hi Erin.
Hi, sorry, it took me a second to get organized, but yeah, we are having a lot of conversation now, thinking about the TILF conference, and have made the decision to move that to some sort of virtual gathering, and not entirely sure what that looks like. I think one thing we're struggling with is just knowing that like by November, there's going to be a lot of Zoom fatigue. So trying to, you know, get out of like whatever normal mold of how we envision a conference and think about, you know, how to plan something that's super engaging and kind of like fulfills all those different aspects of what you look for when you attend a conference, kind of like what Sarah was saying about having, you know, it's like there's the educational piece, but you also want the connection and like you want it to be fun. And, you know, I guess it's harder to create that like fun and like interpersonal aspect when you're talking through like a 2D screen sort of thing. And so one, like, we're just like trying to think about trying to like conceptualize what it's going to look like. Because I think that it'd be a really hard sell to be like, all right, we're just going to sit in front of our computers for 2 days, 8 hours a day. And like just trying to take like the exact format of what an in-person event looked like and put it online. So I think we're exploring ideas of like, maybe it's like stretched out over a few days, like a few more days than normal, and it's like shorter little spurts. So yeah, I'm really curious to see kind of how, like, if as people from this group attend other virtual conferences, how, like, what works really well, what works doesn't. I know Abba had shared about the Slack option and having that be a way to create some engagement. So really open to how this group, like ideas of like models of success for how to model an event that is really engaging and also informative.
Great, thanks, Erin. I love what Abba was saying too about this idea of, you know, most of the conferences are sort of that one-time thing, and how do we make these two so we can continue to kind of build on them in a dynamic way, so that they're sort of an archive, but they're also dynamic in how they can continue, because they're in this virtual space and we're not limited by geography and accessibility, although people obviously need access to technology. And I think that's something too that really thinking about, you know, our stakeholders across Washington and whether or not they have access to devices and to smart technology to be able to participate, and what that resource perspective in terms of trying to create access. So I think that's something too that we could definitely chew on some of these calls, in terms of looking at whether it's lending libraries or ways that we can really help support access. And I know we talked about this 2 weeks ago as well, is making sure that we still have material that's available in multiple languages. And so what that looks like in terms of these live events, and how we can help support translation opportunities and so forth. Okay, so I see here also looking at breakout rooms, lots of great ideas in the chat, so please keep posting them. And the next thing that we were going to talk about today, if there's anything else that people want to share about virtual events, please jump in now. Otherwise, we're going to kind of transition to our next topic for today. And financial resources. So there has just been so much coming out over the last couple of weeks in terms of both grant programs, so COVID rapid response grants that are coming out. I know the University of Washington had a lot of really incredible funding opportunities that were internally released. WSU had some, but they used up all the resources. So we're hoping to see if they're still going to be able to release more internal funds that would be available. The USDA has had several grant programs that have come out over the last couple of weeks. I just saw one today when we were hopping on the call about stress in the food system or in agricultural systems associated with disasters. But there's also been a lot of specific resources coming through, whether it's through the CARES Act. And I really wanted to just open this up for discussion in terms of experiences that people have had, either kind of distilling down some of these grants and looking at opportunities to apply for additional funds. I know that I fielded just even some emails this week of interest to be able to participate in different grant applications across multiple organizations. So I'd love to just have some time to allow people to share what they've seen in terms of both the grants that are coming out for resource providers, as well as the actual financial resources that are coming out specifically for food and farm businesses, experiences that you've had in looking at accessibility to those funds for food and farm businesses, as well as opportunities to network across multiple agencies for some of the grants also that are being made available.
I was gonna, oh, go ahead.
Great, Lisa. No, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I just was going to say that there are several new pools of funding from the federal government, and specifically, I think for farmers, any farmer that is a 1099 entrepreneur or small businesses, they can now access these EIDL loans. It's open just for a little bit now. That if once the president signs the new funding bill, those applications that are in the queue will be first funded, but there is a window, probably not more than maybe 10 days or 15 days, where new applicants can come in and apply for the EIDL, the Emergency Injury Disaster Loans, and the Paycheck Protection. Hope I'm not going so fast. What I know is that it's very competitive, it's very difficult, but some avenues that may be valuable are like Cabbage or PayPal, Intuit. They are pretty quick and easy ways for small micro businesses to access these loans. So that's the first part. And then the second part, I don't know if you have anybody here talking about the state level funding from the Department of Commerce, small under $10,000 grants. And I just would recommend folks apply. Some counties have already closed the window, but there's been another $5 million that has been injected into that pool. I would say too that for those workers, undocumented people who need just basic rent, utilities, the only federal agency funds that are available to them are with community action councils. And I'm sure all of you knew that, but it was something new for our organization. And so if you want more information about that, I can get that to you. I didn't know that there was a way that resources could be deployed to farm workers or others who might not think they're eligible, but could get access to these funds. So that's just a quick summary.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Do you want to just introduce yourself as well?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, my primary work around the state is with our statewide association called the Washington State Microenterprise Association, but I also work with Enterprise for Equity. It's a small microenterprise development organization. We do training, technical assistance, and microloans. And hopefully on this call is Liz Jameson, who is our veteran outreach and business specialist. And I don't know if Liz, you're on here, but Liz Jameson is a bright star and super skilled in business development. She's working with veteran farmers, with Jason Alves with the Department of Veterans Affairs. And so if you have any kinds of business cool questions, she's an excellent resource.
Great, thank you so much.
You bet.
Henry, do you have anything that you want to add as well in terms of just information regarding access to resources?
I think Dominique's also on, so she may be able to give a better update. But yeah, we're still, I think there's a new round of PPP coming out that's going to be signed on Monday. So I'll put our resource page on there. So I think there may be an opportunity to get on a waiting list, but we are processing those through our organization, although we do still have a waiting list from the previous round. And but yeah, we're trying to keep our resources open on our page, so I'll put that out on the chat window.
Great, thank you so much. And is there anyone here who's familiar with what's currently happening with FSA as well? I know that was something, there was some discussion about changing, so they do have access to funds based on natural disasters, and there was some communication going around about whether or not you could access some of the Farm Service Agency funds by listing other in terms of the kind of disaster and then going that route. I'm just wondering if anyone has been successful in terms of working with FSA to get access to any of their loan or grant programs as well.
You know, I don't know about FSA, but I'm noticing that Dominic from the Business Impact Northwest is on this call. And they're doing a tremendous number of microloans for farmers and for others. And so she and other women's business centers around the state are just also really good resources for farmers accessing funds.
Great, thanks, Lisa. And I know Henry's also with Business Impact Northwest. They just posted the link to their resources, their resource page. Yeah, so
great.
Definitely. And I feel like the most important aspect of all of this is urgency of getting your application in. So talking to several small enterprise businesses, and they either missed that window because they didn't get their application in on time and the funds were already dispersed, or the allocation was used up. So it's great to hear that there's additional funds coming out. But whatever you can do to support your community stakeholders in getting those applications in as soon as possible, that seems to be really such a important criteria for this. And I'd love to hear also if there's anyone else. It looks like, oh, Dominique just posted as well. Do you want to share for a few minutes?
Sure. What I posted is just a more specific thing about on our resource page that I think might be helpful is an on-demand webinar. I'm just updating it. It was recorded last week, and I'll update the description to say that agriculture is now going to be accepted in the reopening, but it has screenshots screen by screen from the EIDL application that folks could, if they just wanted to get a quick overview so that they were ready to hit like submit on Monday, that might be a really great opportunity if somebody wants to just see like, what am I going to need to have? What information are they going to ask me? So they can just kind of get prepped. It's on demand. All you got to do is fill out a couple pieces of information and you can just watch it. So.
Great, thank you so much.
Hi everybody, this is Laura Raymond with WSDA. In addition to all of that excellent information, I want to share too, I'm not sure that everyone is aware that the unemployment benefits that are available now are actually available for some self-employed people. Our state's portal had not been updated for the application for self-employed people to be very easy to use, but people are eligible, and once you get in the system, it's retroactive to the date that you identify. So that's something for people to be aware of. I'm trying to track that and get helpful information from ESD out, but I'll admit I'm a little behind it. But as soon as I have good information to share, it'll be posted on the WSDA COVID Small Farm Resource page. And in terms of the FSA question, Laura, this isn't FSA specifically, but it is USDA, and there's been some hints about direct payments to farmers that may come through USDA. The details of that have not been released yet, but it seems as though it will be very important for farms making claims to be able to identify lost revenue from likely January 1st through mid-April. So it's helpful for farms to, again, this is not official information yet, but this is sort of what we're hearing. So it would be helpful for farms to be getting that kind of documentation in place from their financial records. And then finally, I want to just speak to the new USDA AMS food box program. So a lot of the aid that is flowing out from USDA right now is in the form of assistance to the emergency food sector and the ability to shift some of the supply chains that lost their business with the closure of food service and hospitality and restaurants, and try to make opportunities for those supply chain partners to sell into the emergency foods. So their USDA is just getting ready to release a solicitation for bids for local, ideally, they're hoping that applicants will be local distributors, which as far as we know could include food hubs and even farms that have the capacity to meet the bid requirements. That solicitation is supposed to come out today. It has a really fast turnaround, like about a week to get your bid back in. I haven't seen it posted yet. PTAC is available to assist small businesses with applying to federal and other government contracts. So again, if anybody is planning on trying to respond to that solicitation, you don't need to let us know, but if you don't mind telling WSDA, we'll try to connect you with whatever resources exist to assist with that.
Great, thank you so much, Laura. And we have a link to, you can obviously just go straight to the WSDA Regional Markets page. They have amazing number of resources up there about state resources. So please connect with that. And like Laura was saying, and just sort of the urgency of this turnaround and the support that producers and small businesses need, or small enterprise businesses need, in terms of being able to get these applications in. I see a couple comments too about the concern that farmers and food businesses have over taking loans versus some of these programs that are more grant-based. And so, and I'm not familiar with which ones are loans at this point and which ones are grants, but I think that is also something, you know, to try to really help look at what is available that doesn't have a payback, and what is available that actually does as well. So, and that's something that we'll try to tease out a little bit more as we post resources.
Laura,
I see here. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's one other pool of funding that has begun in Mason County and several counties around the state, funded by the Community Development Block Grant, and these are forgivable loans. So it's tricky. They call it a forgivable loan, but it really acts like a grant. These are for low to moderate income entrepreneurs. And so I'll send the link there. Not all of the counties that are eligible have submitted their final plans. So once it's all final, I'd be glad to send it to you.
Great, thank you so much. And I see Jude also posted, the Wallace Center had a seminar, or a webinar on the AMS program. I think it was just yesterday or sometime this week, and we'll make sure that we provide a link to that as well. So anyone who's interested can watch this webinar. I think it's archived as well on their website. So make sure you look into that. Again, that's the Wallace Center, and that was sent out through the Food Systems Leadership Network. So there's been a lot of resources coming out through that network. But the Wallace Center has been curating a lot of national resources as well.
And I have a question that has just come in through private chat as well, is if there's anyone on the line that knows anything, has any updates about the USDA Food Assistance Program. If in terms of more money coming into the, are there any SNAP Ed or youth and families faculty on the line that may have information about those programs? Or Laura Raymond, do you not have any knowledge?
I know on our call last week, they did talk about, yeah, I know SNAP benefits increased by 40%, someone just said, and that was something that we had talked about, was that across the board, there was an increase in SNAP benefits. So any other information that people want to provide, and I don't know if that was just automatic, anyone who's already enrolled got that 40% increase, or if it's something that you have to go through some sort of application process as well. I'm hoping it was just automatic. But yeah, if anyone wants to share.
Mike? Mike Peroni, do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can tell you, I mean, as described, the turnaround is going to be pretty quick. I think everyone is anxiously awaiting a little more information on the details and whether indeed it's a good fit on the ground. Jeff Volz at NABC is working with Andrew Yoakum and other staff members at the Puget Sound Food Hub to position the Puget Sound Food Hub to offer distribution services in Skagit and Whatcom counties. They estimate, early estimates are somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 boxes per week. Their capacity is estimated at just shy of 6,000. So, you know, a lot of moving parts, a lot of unanswered questions, but I continue the conversation with NABC and the Puget Sound Food Hub in hopes of being able to extend sourcing opportunities to regional growers in Southwest Washington as well. So it's really kind of a no more later situation.
Great, thanks, Mike. And any additional resources that you come across over the next week or so, just let us know and we can definitely post them on our hub and get them out to this group.
Thank you. I do want to quickly echo too that PTAC, that offer to have PTAC assist people in positioning for this is a marvelous idea. That is a wonderful resource.
Great. I see Hannah had something to say.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, I just wanted to chime in with just a couple of thoughts and observations, if you don't mind, around resources and funding. And so, like the idea of like scarcity and necessity, it just feels like such a dash for the cash right now. And the idea that it is like, I am seeing what feels a lot more like first come, first serve. And so I would just really encourage folks who are working with people who would benefit from these loans. Like, this is, you know, obviously this is not normal times, but the need for that turnaround is so incredibly quick. And what I'm finding is I will share a resource of new grant funds, and within hours, the site will have crashed or they will be out of funds. And so, you know, I just, where normally, like, and a lot of times there isn't it's open until, we don't hear that, we just hear when it's been closed. And so I would just really impress upon, as you're sharing these things, first of all, I would make sure that that's even still open. So the last thing that I had heard from the Working Washington Small Business Grant was that, yes, they did get an additional $5 million, but they had 25,000 applicants and only 1,100 in the pipeline, and they are not going to open that back up. So some of these things that are out there, we really want to make sure that we're sharing things that are truly actually open and still viable options for people to be applying for in the first place, because many of the things that I have previously been sharing, they are no longer options. And then just really impressing upon people where we're so used to, you know, matters of like financial matters and business matters, like those things often move really slowly. This is not the time to be dragging any feet. And so other just helpful advice that we might be able to give, like besides just pushing out information, as soon as I see something, I send it out to all of my Chamber of Commerce. A lot of times they haven't even seen it before I'm sending it to them. So just trying to get that stuff out to as many different channels as you can in your local area, or sending it directly to people who would benefit the most. And then other tips or tricks, like just you know, our libraries are closed, our extension offices are closed, so places where people might normally go to get their paperwork in order aren't really options right now. So even something that might seem as silly as I've shown several different business owners how to use their iPhone to scan documents to attach or to include into their grant applications. And that's been a real lifesaver for them. And it's a small, easy thing, but like little ways that, like, if that hangs you up from, you know, being able to get it in the first 2 days, and then that money's dried up, you're just out of luck. So anyways, just a couple of things that I'm trying to do here. But I would just encourage people too, with the grants that we're seeing, before you're posting or sharing them, make sure they're even still valid, because many of them are no longer.
Great, thanks Hannah so much for that feedback. And it makes me I want to remind everyone too that if you know of people that don't have access to Wi-Fi, there are several spots across the state. I know, for instance, on the Olympic Peninsula, the PUD, the library, and the extension offices all have what they're calling dry-fi, where you can pull into their parking lots and access their Wi-Fi for free. So if that's something too that people are really feeling limited by in terms of access to broadband or Wi-Fi, having stable connections to be able to upload these applications, get them in a timely manner. And it seems like too, one of the things that we could think about, especially those of us who have taught the ag entrepreneurship class through Cultivating Success, is are there some really easy resources or worksheets that we could help make available for producers to be able to track loss, like Laura Raymond was saying, from January 1st really onward, so that they have some clear documentation that they can use. And if those resources are already out there, great, we can share them. But that might be something that we can also think about just as a community of resource providers, how we could potentially come together with some really easy forms that could be used for some of this tracking.
Laura, would it be possible to send the link or the locations around the state where those sites are where people can access the internet?
Yes, definitely. I will make sure, we'll post those actually up on our website. We'll make that available through the Food Systems website. And I know that they're working with, WSU's been working with Microsoft right now to get, I think it was 15 more sites set up around the state where there's still very spotty access. So that's something that they're continuing to work with to just try to get as much coverage as possible, and working with OSPI as well, so that school kids that are required to do their homework have access to some of these parking lot sites where they can do their work. So I know it's been a real huge challenge.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Just
okay,
real quick, I had Jen Moss had to hop off the call early, but she emailed me just a quick update that and that I'm pasting a portion of her email into the chat here, but she just was letting everyone know that there was an extension. They're releasing a certification waiver for those with a 6-month extension for SNAP benefit customers. I'm just skimming her email. So any reviews after April 23rd. So anyway, I just posted that in the chat box. I wanted to let anyone know if they were trying to keep up with some of the different protocols around SNAP benefits.
Was there a link as well? Because it says just learn more here at the end.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I was just noticing. It didn't carry over from so I will post that here.
So we've talked a lot about programs to directly benefit food and farm businesses. I'd also like to hear from anyone who's also working on applying for grants, particularly to do either additional extension work, research work across the food system to help support food and farm businesses during this time. There's been a lot of RFAs that have come out recently, and if you are interested in sharing what you're working on, this would be a great time if you're looking for partners. I know we fielded some emails just even this week about people looking for additional partners on some of the grant projects that they're working on. So this is a great time to be able to share what you're working on and whether or not you have additional partnership needs or ideas that you have, but you're still looking for collaborators. Okay, well, we will try to also create some space on the website for some of those resources that are coming out. Go ahead, Chris. No?
Jude was bringing up that, and I noticed this too, there's been several grant opportunities that have come out that are specific to food systems work and research around. I'm wondering if any of the work we're currently doing with the hub or even with the assessment tool, if any of those things might be in alignment with some of these research grants.
Well, the one that I saw one that came out this morning, and it's called Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network, it's through NIFA. And it's to establish a network that connects individuals who are engaged in farming, ranching, and other agricultural related occupations to stress assistance programs. the establishment of a network that assists farmers and ranchers in time of stress can offer a conduit to improving behavioral health awareness, literacy, and outcomes for agricultural producers, workers, and their families. So I just literally got this morning, I think right before we hopped on the call. And I know there's some other ones coming out. I'm hoping to meet with Jennifer Otten from the University of Washington this week as well about some of the COVID rapid response funds that have been released as well through USDA. She's with the University of Washington Food Systems Nutrition and Health Program. And so there's definitely some opportunities out there to work together collaboratively to look at harnessing our partnerships to bring some of these funds into Washington State to support food and farm businesses. I also was wondering if Hannah is still on the call. She just attended a webinar recently, I believe it was earlier this week, about some of the urgency around farm workers and helping support them through COVID. Hannah, are you still on the call?
Yes, I am still on the call. It was a really awesome webinar, and they just sent out the recording a few minutes ago. So I'll add that to the chat box when we're done here. But one of the things that was so concerning to me was that this is what I've been the most concerned about, is what will happen with our farm workers. And we know what their housing looks like, and we know how conducive that would be to the spread. I was taken aback by the idea that a lot of this has not, like, it hasn't been in the media. So, learning that 42 farm workers in East Wenatchee 2 days ago were just tested positive, and thinking, boy, we have not heard anything about, I hadn't heard anything about that. And I thought, it speaks to the idea that some of our farm workers, that they're invisible people, and that really hurts my heart. And I want to provide advocacy. And one of the things that they talked about was like the need to unionize and the need for workers to be able to have a say in how adjustments are made so that they are kept safe. But they also, of course, talked about that there's only 2 farms in the state of Washington that are unionized workers. And really, they were saying, it needs to start at a local level. And so anything we can do to help give leadership or voice to our farm workers and support any local effort that might happen in our area, those were really their strongest pieces of advice. But it still left me feeling like I sure wish there was more that I could do.
Great, thanks for sharing, Hannah, and definitely share the link to that recorded webinar. And I think that just also goes back to what Lisa Smith was saying as well, in terms of access to assistance programs. If you're not a U.S. citizen or you're undocumented, what programs that you have access to. And I know she mentioned the community action centers. So we'll try to make sure that we have some additional resources posted specifically to support our farm worker community. So I don't know if anyone else wants to share. We're at right around 11:15. Obviously, we hold the space for 2 hours, and we're happy to continue to curate the call. If anyone wants to share sort of anything that we haven't discussed today, topics that you want to hear about next week, just stories through the past week of what you've been coping with, or maybe successes that you've had in terms of some of the work or the experiences that you've had through the pandemic. So feel free to share. Otherwise, if you're feeling Zoom fatigue, we're really happy to have had you join us as well. And again, these meetings will be, this meeting is recorded and it will be posted for everyone to be able to look at if you were not able to attend, or you know someone who should have attended. And just as a quick reminder before people do hop off, we do have our next meeting on Friday, May 1st from 10 to 12. We are updating our website weekly. Thank you so much to Tia and Nicole for the hard work that they're doing. Please take the needs assessment. We will be sending out a reminder. If you haven't already taken it for last week, please do it now. And then we will be sending out a reminder on Wednesday to take it for this current week. So we're going to send out reminders on Wednesday to take it for the past week. Please continue to send us your calendar of events and links to resources so that we can be posting them. And again, I just want to thank all of you for participating, and we're going to still stay on the line. If anyone else has anything else they'd like to share, or suggest for our meeting next Friday?
Laura, this is Diane Smith. I'm not sure if it's already been mentioned, but the Department of Health does have a grant for community programs to do translation. Especially what Hannah was saying, as far as, is there a need to provide translation of materials, either written or audio? There is this grant available to support that, just FYI.
Can you post that in the chat box or send us a link? That would be great. And I know even talking with Stephanie Smith, I didn't talk to her directly. I talked to Doreen Hauser-Lindstrom, but that was one of the things that came up on our call 2 weeks ago, was the need for really short instructional videos that are done in Spanish, or at least there's translation in Spanish, specifically for farm workers about food handling and food safety and COVID. And so I wonder if this could also be used to take some of the resources that have already been produced and translate them.
WSU is not an eligible applicant. We would have to have a community partner. So I'm partnering with NABC to see if they will be our fiscal agent in terms of translating our food access map for Skagit, providing the written as well as audio clips for research locations. So I will try and find it and post it, or maybe send it to you. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to post it before.
Yeah, that's totally fine. You can forward it on to us. That's great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Benji Ostracon over in Clallam with WSU Extension here. Just on that last comment, there actually is a WSU Extension translation resource. This is Maria Brown Pounds. She is the SNAP-Ed Extension Coordinator in the Skagit area, I believe, but specifically does offer translation services. So for those folks within Extension for whom that last grant would not apply, Maria is offering to do translation services. We're using her over here to get some emergency food access resource list materials translated for our Forks area, because we know that we have a significant Spanish-speaking immigrant farm worker population there who might not be as aware of the resources that are available to them because of the lack of availability of Spanish materials. So I would definitely recommend folks within Extension who are looking for translation services to reach out. Again, her name is Maria Brown Pounds.
Great. Thank you so much, Benji.
Yeah.
I know we have Kate Smith as well. I don't know if she's totally back full time after being on maternity leave, but she has done a tremendous amount of work in terms of translation services for WSU as well. So those are great resources.
I'm wondering, it sounds like, Benji, you're having her translate some printed materials, but I'm wondering if anyone has come across or has access to any sort of video content. I've been looking for anything that is out there that would fill the gap in the meantime. Has anyone else come across anything like that? That's a video format.
We have a partner in Seattle, Ventures. I don't know if you've checked in with them, but they're an excellent resource for Spanish language, business training, and technical assistance. And they're also a microlender, and they may have some, but I'm not aware of it.
Great, thank you so much, Lisa. And I see Jason also posted some links for military and veterans COVID response resource list here through the Department of Veterans Affairs in Washington. So we'll make sure that we capture that link. Thank you, Jason.
Jason, I meant to ask, was the resilience webinar recorded? Is that available somewhere?
It was not recorded, but the intention right now is that we will be offering it again. And then a couple other trainings that came out of requests at the end of that training. So stand by for some upcoming trainings.
Great, thank you. Anyone else has information to share or requests for next week?
anyone just have a fun story they want to share? A joyful moment.
Okay, I have one. I don't know if have ever been to Olympia, but we have an entrepreneur of Enterprise for Equity that sells gelato. So Sophie Scoops has now converted everything to selling pints of gelato. She sources all her, dairy from a local farm. Anyway, you can order on Monday and then pick up your pints, or she'll deliver them to your home at the end of the week. And that's been just incredibly fun and resourceful for people like us.
That's great. Thank you so much.
I have another one. Over the last couple of years, the North 40 in Meade, Washington has donated their leftover seeds from when they close out their seed racks to Extension. And I got a call a couple of weeks ago from the Spokane City Library, who said that they'd put out a page asking if people wanted, vegetable seeds mailed to their house, 3 packs each. And they got 4,000 responses and had to take the site down in 15 hours. Well, I happen to have probably 2,000 packets of seed sitting here in the office that I donated to the Spokane Public Library, and they're going out to families through their seed library.
That's so excellent. Thank you for sharing.
I have a fun story.
Go for it, Nels.
So I have a pork farm to food pantry project funded by Northwest Harvest. It's a pilot project to do 12 pigs, which will be donated. This is high-end pastured pork. The pork will be donated to food pantries, but it's kind of a twofold purpose. One is to get protein to food pantries, but the other is to train people on how to do pastured pork. Well, I had 40-some or 35 people show up for the kickoff event, and then I only ended up with a couple of applications, and all the applications that came in are children. So I just went on my first farm tour. My staff person Gabby and I did, and visited this one farm. It's a family I know. They're homeschooled and are just bought some cattle, and I saw their setup, and the boy who's probably 12 or 13, who's going to be raising these 4 hogs, is so excited, and it could turn into a generation of farmer, just this project. And I was just so tickled to see this setup and how excited and they all are to do it.
That's great. Thank you.
So this is Melissa. I'll add just another interesting bit of information, which is our Northwest Garden Guide that we publish and distribute. We've gotten more orders for that guide in the past month than we normally get in a year. So it's just been amazing how many people are trying to get up to speed on how to grow food.
Yeah, maybe we're going back to a print culture again. Maybe people want to get their hands on printed materials again after everything that we've been through, which is fabulous to see as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, well, I just really, again, this is such a wonderful community to be able to belong to, and I'm so happy that all of you were able to participate today. We'll continue to get resources from today's meeting updated onto our hub. We'll be running some reports that you can look at from the week prior, which will also be made available. And just keep sending us resources, keep sending us information, reach out with your good stories of what's going on and what fills your heart right now. And I really want to thank my office team as well for just stepping up to the plate and working so hard to help curate this resource. So please send out the needs assessment to producers, to your lists. We'll make sure that we send it out extensively as well. You'll see a big reminder next Wednesday with a big marketing push for that, so that we can really see if we can up participation and help in terms of guiding leadership, especially within WSU, for what resources are really needed. And we had some great conversations with them over the last 2 weeks because of the food preservation information that we gathered. And again, just really thanking all of you for support. So, Nicole just said it looks like maybe Stephen has something to say. Stephen, would you like to share really quick before we jump off?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Nicole. Good. I'm hearing myself twice. Hopefully I can. There we go. I wanted to share a quick story from just a neat relationship between our 4-H program and the SNAP Ed program here in Thurston County. This is Stephen Bramwell in Thurston County. And it was just pretty cool. We've got some donations going to a meals pantry at Garfield Elementary School. And they were able to team up with different 4-H clubs to sponsor, the food going into those meals each week. We haven't seen those two programs in our county kind of team up on something really yet, and it was just like a really cool response to see evolve organically. So, yeah, it's pretty neat. I love hearing about what's happened in other counties, so I just wanted to share that one.
Great, thank you so much. And Nicole just reminded me that before we jump off, she still has to take a Zoom selfie to just mark the week. So before you go, if you haven't shared your screen yet and you'd like to, so we can see all your lovely faces, that would be excellent. And I know Nicole is getting excited to take this photo. Right, Nicole?
Hey, you got to get excited about something these days, all right? If I can get everyone to share a Zoom moment, you can, yeah, there you go.
I don't have any left.
I know, Laura's a badass and shaved her head, so. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, take care everyone. We'll talk soon.
You can't see the noose in my office in the background, can you?
Yeah. Nils. Thanks everyone.
Thanks for raising future pig farmers, Nils. Yeah, like we need more crazies out there.
Okay.
Bye everyone.
Thanks everybody.
So Nicole, you're recording.